What's happening, everybody? Happy Tuesday night. It is 9:32 Eastern. Welcome to Johnny Gaz Live. Happy Tuesday. How are we doing out there, Lions fans? 5-2 Lions on a Tuesday. How are we feeling? What a great night it was for the Lions on Monday Night Football. We're going to dive into all of it on this edition of Johnny Gaz Live. Welcome back to the channel. For those of you that are back again, thank you for returning. For those that are here for the first time, welcome to you. Happy Tuesday. Doesn't it feel good to be a Lions fan on this fantastic Tuesday evening? I'm broadcasting to you live from Glens Falls, New York, in the basement of my home here. The Lions Dome. No, I don't know. I made that up. But I'm feeling good tonight, guys. I hope you are feeling the same. Let me know how you are feeling in the chat. Say hello. Let's get you involved early and often. Mile Marker, how you doing, my man? Millicent, happy Victory Tuesday. Go Lions. Joseph, how you doing, my dude? What a game. Let's freaking go. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for getting involved early. Sack, what's happening? Trim, how you doing, my dude? Everyone's in here early. I appreciate you guys. Happy Tuesday. We're going to talk big-time Monday Night Football. We got a lot of topics ahead of us today. Obviously, the big story of the day is the defense. We're going to spend a ton of time on Kelvin Sheppard and what an amazing job he did with this makeshift secondary. The Legion of whom? I can't take credit for that. I thought about it for a split second. I'm like, I'm going to own this, but I can't own this. Somebody sent it to me earlier. The Legion of whom? So what do you think about that? But we're going to talk about all of it. The Lions secondary, everything they did defensively, offense, which was up and down on the day. We're going to get into all of it. But the Lions with the victory 24-9 on Monday Night Football against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At the time, the 5-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the extremely hot Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the Lions took care of business at home in what was a blackout at Ford Field. Lions in their all-black uniforms, the Motor City Muscle, and they showed it. And we're going to talk about it all. We're going to break it down, the big moments, the low moments, what it means for the Lions moving forward, because we're now at the bye week. The Lions hitting the bye week at 5-2. How are you feeling, Lions fans, coming to the bye week at 5-2? And how confident are you now that you've seen this Lions team take down Tampa on Monday Night Football? Let me know in the chat. But I appreciate you guys coming along for another Johnny Gaz Live. We're going to be together for the next at least hour, if not more. Be taking your questions in the chat, so definitely hit me up early and often. I will get to all of your comments. What's up, bro? What's up, Cedric? Trevor, how you doing? CB stepped up all night long. Yes, they did. Sack, the crowd affected the game. They did, man. It was a fantastic atmosphere at Ford Field. It was so loud. They truly affected the communication between the Bucs and their coaching staff. The great atmosphere. And we're going to talk about it all. Lions win 24-9. I would have never predicted the Lions were going to hold any team to under 10 points this season, let alone the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who, although they were coming in very injured, really decimated in their wide receiver crew, although they did get back Mike Evans, who eventually went out of the game again. They had Emeka Egbuka back, so they had some of their weapons come back for this game, and I just didn't see this Lions team holding them to under 10 points. And incredibly, Kelvin Sheppard and this whole crew put on one of the best defensive performances we've seen in several years. I mean, it's amazing to say that, but it's very true. So 24-9, Lions win this football game. A football game where I didn't feel like the Lions were ever not in control. I mean, they never really separated themselves in this matchup, and we'll talk about some of the offensive struggles and what I saw from this game. But the Lions really controlled this from start to finish. They open up with the touchdown pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown, a very rare first quarter touchdown pass from Jared Goff. I think they put the stat up on the board that he's only had 2 first quarter touchdown passes in the last several seasons. It's pretty amazing considering the greatness that is this Lions offense at times, but that was a very rare first quarter touchdown pass, Jared Goff to Amon-Ra St. Brown. So Lions open up really strong, go up early, and really from that point forward never relinquish control. The Bucs were able to stay in it. Baker Mayfield did not play his best game. And again, we'll talk about how the defense really affected that. But Tampa was one of the hottest teams coming into this matchup. They were 5-1, and the Lions defense held them to 251 total yards of offense. Incredible. Cedric says, yes, sir, let's go Shep. That's right. We're going to talk about a lot of Shep today. Joseph says, Max Crosby rumors? I don't know. We're going to get into it. Lions offense puts together 379 yards of total offense. But really, when you look back at the game, it was really just big plays from Amon-Ra St. Brown and then, of course, Jahmyr Gibbs. And that was the extent of their offense on Monday night. So we're going to kind of talk about what that meant. But with this win, Lions moved to 5-2, heading into their bye week. If you would have told me at the start of the season, Lions would be 5-2 at the bye, I would have taken that every single time. So you have to be happy with where this team is at. Let me know in the comments below on a scale of 1 to 10, how convincing was this win for you? Did it feel like a true statement game? So let me know, 1 to 10, how convincing of a win was this for you? Let me know in the chat. We talked about the Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown. It's a great way to open up this matchup. And again, the Lions take control early on the opening drive. But I think the star of the game offensively for the Lions, of course, has to be Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, the speed alone is just hard to fathom. 17 carries, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 receptions for 82 receiving yards, had 218 total scrimmage yards. 70-yard TD run, just explosive. And it really changed everything. That run kind of opened up the game. In essence, Lions really had to have it because the Bucs had battled back at that point. But I thought Jahmyr Gibbs was your star offensively. Offensive line, passing game, I thought was shaky. Thought the offensive line was good enough. I've heard it described as kind of a sleepy at times situation for the Lions, according to Pride of Detroit. And that's kind of the sense you got. Jared Goff, up and down on the day, 20 of 29, 241 yards on the touchdown. Also had the fumble and the interception. And I really thought after he took that big hit trying to scramble and taking the sack, I think it was one of 4 sacks on the day, he was kind of a different quarterback. And it's a little bit concerning for me because I just felt there were times the offense stalled out and had opportunities to really open up this game. I mean, if you look at statistically, this should have been a mega blowout, and it really wasn't. As much as the Lions were in control, the Bucs were able to hang in there because the Lions offense stalled multiple times. They punted, they turned the ball over, committed weird penalties, uncharacteristic penalties. Not overly concerning, but things you want to have cleaned up as you get past the bye week. And hopefully as the John Morton offense progresses and they're able to work through a little bit more of this, actually figure out the pieces they want to use when and where, I think you'll see this continue to progress. I'm not worried about the offense, but there were certainly some times where you thought, at least I thought, they had stalled out. Jill says, supersonic. He was like supersonic speed in that moment. I mean, that moniker of Sonic and Knuckles plays out so well because he is so fast. But I think the question is, are we getting enough out of Knuckles in this scenario? Has Jahmyr Gibbs gotten so good now, and he's such an asset to this Lions offense to where it's kind of putting Montgomery in the shadows. Outside of a few chunk runs against the Ravens, David Montgomery really hasn't been super effective. And it might be usage, might be time that he's put in the game. But I really think that now Jahmyr Gibbs has become the number 1 back for the Lions. You're going to, I think, start to see more and more increased touches for Jahmyr, more scrimmage yards like we saw here against the Bucs. But ultimately, does this mean that he's surpassed David Montgomery? Is Jahmyr Gibbs now the number 1 back for the Lions and David Montgomery takes the backup role? And it's not a bad thing, but is that just the natural progression? Is that how you guys see it? I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat. Let me know. Has Jahmyr Gibbs now gotten to the point where he is the Lions' premier back? He's number 1. David Montgomery's number 2. And is that based on true effectiveness and what we're seeing in these games? Because I agree with you, Jill. I want Monty to have a better day as well. It just felt like they kept trying to go to him, but he just couldn't break free. Again, credit the Tampa Bay Bucs defensive rush presence at times. I think the speed of Gibbs is hard to contain, but other than that, historically, they have a good run defense, and they were able to hold Monty in check. So although the Lions were able to get chunk plays and some explosive plays that ultimately got them scores, they didn't really have large sustained drives where you could say they leaned on the run game or leaned on Jared Goff. I just thought there were times where the offense stalled out. So we're going to continue to look at that moving forward. But man, Jahmyr Gibbs looked like the guy. He certainly looked like the guy. And he delivered under the lights on Monday night. And he seems to do that over and over again. Cedric says, John wants a speed back. So yeah, I mean, I think that works better in the current offensive system that he's running. And if you're only going to use David Montgomery in short yardage or pound situations, that's what you're kind of going to get. Let's get chat involved, guys. Let's pull up you guys. Let's get you guys involved so we can see what's going on. I'd love to hear from you. Let's talk about this defense more than anything else. We have to discuss a major point coming out of this game. We've fed on some of the offensive struggles. We talked about the highlights, but let's get into what really made the difference in this game, and that is the Kelvin Sheppard defense. But before we do that, let's get your chat rolling right now. There we are. Trim says, Laporta bailed Goff out on that 3rd and long with a great grab. Yeah, I mean, Laporta's been that security blanket. I think Laporta wasn't as good as he's been in other matchups. I just didn't get a lot of dynamic playmaking from him outside of a few decent catches. And like you said, Trim, he did bail him out on a 3rd down. But I think you probably see more out of Laporta moving forward. Wasn't his best game, let's put it that way. Milton says, I think it's going to take time to optimize the use of all the offensive weapons. I mean, I think that's probably the thing we sort of expected. The offensive line, I think, is gelled pretty quickly for what we thought would happen. And, of course, with Decker being in and out of the lineup, it's been a tough shuffle of either Manu there or Dan Skipper. And obviously we saw Decker come back in and play in this last game on Monday night. So that's always going to carry the day for the Lions, is how effective is this offensive line. But that's sort of to be expected, these kind of ups and downs as John Morton and the current talent that they have figure each other out. I guess what I would say is I thought we had kind of moved past some of this. But the truth is, if the Lions defense is going to play the way that they played, then this Lions team is scary. Jill says, need Brian Branch back, but he needs to behave. Well, we'll talk about that here in a moment, Jill. I agree with you. We're going to have the bye week to sort of get people healthy, and obviously Brian Branch will be coming back after the suspension, so I think they're in a good spot. But let's focus in on that defense, because I think, again, Kelvin Sheppard, Dan Campbell, what they did as far as game planning, shifting from what didn't happen in Kansas City, being able to be man enough to say what we did against Kansas City didn't work. So if we're going in shorthanded again against a difficult opponent, we have to change what we're doing. And it seemed to me like they went away from the zone concepts they were running against the Chiefs back to more man concepts with some variety against the Bucs, where they were mixing things up. But the guys in the secondary for the Lions had all the heart in the world. And man, what a performance. What a performance. We're talking about guys like Amik Robertson and Rock Ya-Sin. I mean, we know those two names. They've been involved. Those are the names you know. But those two guys led the way as far as being able to step in as veterans and lead the way for how this had to get done. But then you have guys behind him like Arthur Mullett, Thomas Harper, Eric Hallett, Nick Whiteside, Jamie Robinson. These guys deserve so much credit. You know, they said during the broadcast, and I heard it reiterated today, is that the way it was being sold to these guys is, yeah, it's not only an opportunity for you to play for the Lions on a Monday Night Football in prime time, but you're also introducing yourself to the world as far as the other NFL teams that may see you put this tape out there and want to bring you in. Because you may not necessarily have a spot in the Lions long term, but you may at other organizations. And I think it's these kind of performances that make you think this Lions program is off and running. When Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes can bring in two new coordinators And pretty much those two coordinators are now picking up where we left off last season as far as the continuity between the offense and obviously the way the defense played, the way they were able to get the next man up mentality. I mean, this program that Dan Campbell developed is working. It's everything that they saw this Lions organization being, and it's becoming reality. It's incredible. It's awesome. And this defensive performance highlights that. Kelvin Sheppard was a guy that didn't even think he would get into coaching. And he was sort of even convinced by the folks around him, which included guys in Miami, which was Dan Campbell and that staff back then. I mean, way back when Todd Bowles was there, he had a lot of tie-ins with the Bucs, believe it or not. But my point is, they groomed Kelvin Sheppard up through the system. They were able to replace Aaron Glenn, who we were worried that him leaving would be a negative effect on this defense. But Kelvin Sheppard has come in, reinvigorated what they were doing, is still battling through a ton of injuries, but proving that this system works. What a performance. Missing cornerbacks DJ Reed, Terrion Arnold, both of their starting safeties were gone. Kirby Joseph injury, Brian Branch suspension. You just can't say enough about what the Lions had to overcome just to field a backfield, a defensive backfield against the Buccaneers. Bucs managed just 58 rushing yards in the first half. We're 4 for 16 on third downs. Meek Robertson with the forced fumble. Arthur Mollett with the interception. Timely plays, forcing turnovers when you had to have it. Big time. Jill says Whiteside had a good game. Yes, he did. Nick batted passes, was involved, looked extremely professional. I mean, Nick Whiteside has earned himself more snaps for sure. Jill mentions J-Mo. That's a good question. Yeah, you know, J-Mo, I'd love to see more balls get to J-Mo. I think we all would. Anytime he touches the football, explosive things tend to happen. I think the Lions have struggled to get the ball to him specifically outside of maybe last week. And it was again at Ford Field. And I think he's more of an asset to the offense as far as what he dictates with the defense. So even him not getting the football, Jameson Williams is affecting what the defense is doing by forcing them to cover deep. And it allows Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs to work the middle of the field and open things up. So as much as J-Mo's not getting the ball, I think that will come in time. I think it'll come in spurts. But truly, as long as he's healthy and he remains a part of this offense, he's really going to affect the big picture. Jill says, personally, I think we're doing okay without Ben and Aaron. I agree. I think a lot of people would agree with you. I don't know, the whole overcoming Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn thing. I think we're over that. I really think now, Jill, we can sit here and say we're this team now, the Lions are true Super Bowl contenders. They have an A+ head coach, A, B+ coordinators, and one of the best rosters in the NFL when healthy. And obviously their depth can do worldly type things. I mean, it just shows the whole program. And so I think we can move past, the Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn era and just say this Lions team is a Super Bowl contender and we need to move forward with it. Millicent says, so impressed by the young fellas, Hallett, Harper, Whiteside, all 24, 25 years old, young and hungry. Yes, those guys earned it. They earned it yesterday on Monday night. I think this defense sort of rallied around that Brian Branch suspension. I think they were able to use that as fuel. The whole Lions organization used that as fuel, but obviously the secondary and all the depth pieces kind of rally around that. And that's what this program's able to do. That's what good football teams are able to do, is find that motivation. The next man up mentality is a overly used moniker, but it's very true in the NFL, and it has to be in these situations, and the Lions proved it. So question for you guys in chat. How much credit are you giving to Kelvin Sheppard for this defensive performance? Is it Kelvin Sheppard? Is it Dan Campbell? Is it just the depth? How much credit are you giving to Kelvin Sheppard, the defensive coordinator, for this performance on Monday night? I need to know. I need to hear from you guys. Trim says, Levi Stadium bound, baby. Super Bowl or bust. Let's go. Meek Robertson, you're right, Millicent. What a leader. emotional leader, leads by example, makes plays. I mean, he is a ball hawk. He's constantly seeking a punch out, and it worked for him, and it paid dividends for the Lions on Monday. Sports Illustrated also liked Campbell, according to Trevor. Let's talk about the takeaways. What can we take away from this game as we move forward now? Lions heading towards the bye at 5-2, coming off of the victory 24-9 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Couple things we're going to go through here, big takeaways. But first, Sack says, Sheppard gave it to the players, so I give it to the players too, as far as credit for this Lions win. Jill says 80% Kelvin Sheppard. He gets the work together. He gets the working together. I get that. I totally understand. Credit to Brad Holmes and the coaches and the players all buying in. Tons of credit to Sheppard, according to Theodore Woodward, visionary and motivation. Tons of credit to Sheppard. I agree, man. What a coaching performance. What a defensive performance. So 3 key takeaways from this game. Obviously, the defensive performance, the depth matters. You know, those guys, the secondary pieces we just named there are key. These backups are the reason why the Lions were able to put on a performance like they did. Key takeaway number 2, Jahmyr Gibbs emerging as a true game breaker. I mean, I think he's already been that, but ultimately, I think as far as the Lions are concerned in their offense, I think he's now their number 1 back. And John Morton's going to continue to press the issue with Jahmyr Gibbs and utilize his speed. And it changes the game. And more so now than ever, giving you more than what David Montgomery can give you. So let me know. If I'm off base there, let me know in the chat. And I'm not giving up on David Montgomery. I love Monty. I love Knuckles. And I think he's going to make big plays for this Lions team as we move later into the season. You know, when you're going to have to lean on a rushing attack or have a long drives in a game where you got to have it, when you get into a divisional round playoff game, a guy like Montgomery is going to pay off down the road. So this is not a giving up on Knuckles situation, but the question is, has Sonic superseded the Knuckles in this case? My third biggest takeaway from this game is kind of the statement that it makes to the league. I mean, this is a statement built on balance. You know, it's not just the Lions offense leading the way, especially after this performance. And as the Lions start to get healthy through the bye week and come back with, you know, Aleem taking more snaps, Aleem McNeil, who was so big in this matchup. Let's talk about Aleem McNeil for a second. We got to talk about Aleem McNeil, the big guy coming back on Monday Night Football and immediately making an impact. I mean, it was snap 1 and he was pushing that guard back into Baker Mayfield's face. And continuously throughout the night, they were able to pressure from not only the edges, but from the middle of the defensive line. And that forced Baker Mayfield to get rid of the ball a lot earlier than he would have liked. He wasn't able to use his legs or extend plays or throw the ball so early that he was overshooting his targets. He wasn't able to move within the pocket even to get good throwing lanes to move this offense down the field. And that's huge credit to Aleem McNeil in the middle of this defense. He truly affects the way the defense is able to play. That certainly helped the back end to not have to over-defend. So to have Aleem McNeil back and playing productive right away was so huge for this Lions team on Monday night, and it will be even bigger for this Lions defense moving forward as he gets more snaps, gets more comfortable, gets back into that game shape. I mean, he was already there. But you combine that with returning Marcus Davenport, Mekhi Wingo. I mean, there's other pieces that will return here. Linebacking crew, Malcolm Rodriguez, and then obviously everybody in the secondary. I mean, just think about what that means for the Lions moving forward. But to have Aleem McNeil come back and immediately impact and show that he can be a difference maker, he can allow Aiden Hutchinson, Al-Qadim Muhammad, some of the other pieces on the defensive line to be able to make plays. And that will mean everything for this Lions team. Towards the middle of the season, of course, in the back half, and especially in the playoffs where they will play premier quarterbacks. And being able to pressure up the middle will make the difference and will get you to a Super Bowl. So much credit to the returning Ali McNeil, the way they used him in this game. And again, Kelvin Sheppard and the way this Lions secondary, this makeshift secondary, was able to step up to the plate. Trevor says the fans did have an impact. That I love. They did. They clearly did. They affected Baker Mayfield's communication. Just call Shane Falco if we need a backup quarterback. Let's hope we don't. Jared Goff, and he said it, not his best performance, but I think steady enough, confident enough, poised enough in the big moments to make the play when you need it. Millicent says, Coach Shep is the epitome of leader of men. I teared up when Barnes got the game ball. He tossed it to Shep, and Shep gave it right back. What a good moment. And that's the system that they run. They're a player-oriented system where the respect is clearly there. You see it in those videos that they show you from the locker room scenes and the way they talk about their coaching staff, the way the coaches talk about their players. It ruminates, it emanates from inside. Zach says the defense dictates which running back will have the better day via style. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It depends on who they're facing. Obviously, against the Ravens, Monty had the better day of the two. So you hope that you'll still kind of see that shuffle moving forward. But I guess that's kind of the question. Will David still get all those opportunities if Jameer is the premier? If that makes sense. Yeah, Millicent points out the bright pink cleats from Aleem. I love that, not only for the breast cancer awareness side of things, but also because you knew when he was on the field every time. So if you were just looking to watch Aleem McNeil play, those bright pink cleats would show you where he's at. Ken says, what's up, Ken? How you doing, buddy? He says, I'm surprised we didn't have Gibbs and Montgomery in the backfield at the same time, at least for a series or two. I think that would have offset their blitzes and gave Goff more time to throw downfield. You might be right there, Ken. I will say I guess I can only say I specifically saw David Montgomery miss a pickup protection, which is very rare for him. And usually those backs do a good job in picking up blitzes. But you're right. Maybe that would have helped a little bit in some of those pass pro situations. You may see more of that. I do think they're very happy with Jahmyr Gibbs, though, as their primary. So we'll see what that looks like moving forward. Trim says, love how players are wearing 32 in support of Slappy Your Grandma BB. a lot of 32s in the house yesterday at Ford Field, I saw. The bye week couldn't have come at a better time. Maybe we'll get back a corner or safety. I know Branch will be back. Absolutely, Ken. Branch for sure. I could see Kirby coming back with his injury. The knee is kind of a lingering thing, but I think, worst case scenario, he could come back and play. Again, I think you're going to have a lot of returning pieces on the defensive line. So again, things looking up for this Lions defense and Lions in general. Gibbs was wearing those sparkly bright pink gloves as well. You're right, Trim. So yeah, easy to find those few players on the field yesterday. So those are my three biggest takeaways, but what was your biggest takeaway from this game? Was it the rise of Jahmyr Gibbs? Was it the depth in the defense? Was it Kelvin Sheppard's game plan? What was your biggest takeaway? Let me know in the chat your biggest takeaway from this game, the Lions victory 24-9 over the Bucs on Monday Night Football. Again, I appreciate you guys so much for being involved in the chat. Thank you for hanging out for another Johnny Gaz Live. We're talking the Lions Monday Night Football victory over the Bucs, 24-9. Lions move to 5-2 as they head into their bye week. Let's talk about a couple negatives from Monday night. Talked about the great defensive performance. I think offensively is where we can kind of nitpick some things. The red zone efficiency, I don't think they were, when they decide to go for it early in the game like that, they were up 7-0, which we love. We love the aggressiveness. We love Dan Campbell. I'm never going to tell them to stop being aggressive. But they chose to go for it in a situation where they're up 7 points at home. They could have went up by double digits. They didn't. They turned the ball over. It's those little things that over the course of a game, if you don't get a couple fourth down conversions, you lose that efficiency in the red zone. That's where you let teams hang in there. And I felt like that was a little bit of what happened Monday night. The turnovers, obviously, the Goff fumble and the interception, those kind of things, inconsistent for Jared Goff. And again, when the pressure got to him, I felt like it did affect him, and that hadn't been the case recently. So it felt a little bit different. But what I will say is that the Tampa Bay defensive scheme, the way that they blitz, the type of blitzing that they run is very rare. And you don't see that very often against other teams. So Jared Goff, I think, at times handled it well, but at other times you could tell it got to him. And again, I think once he took the bigger hit in that sack, I thought it really affected him. It certainly affected that throw. He was going on Ross St. Brown, did not see Jamel Dean sort of fading back in his zone coverage and really underthrew that ball. I think he might have been even trying to throw it away, but just didn't see Jamel Dean fading back. So kind of a tough circumstance there, but just uncharacteristic for how good Jared Goff has been in prime time. So I thought, again, there's some offensive line pass pro protection things, or maybe even a Jared Goff thing coming out of this game where you have to keep our eye on what's going on there. Because the offensive rhythm I just thought was off. And when they had times to separate or open up this game, I just didn't think that they took advantage of it. Things looked choppy. Ken says, I've seen Raymond in there quite a bit. Yeah, he did play a lot yesterday. They actually he had a couple catches, so he had some opportunities. I mean, obviously Raymond is kind of a jack of all trades, right? I mean, they can use him in so many ways. Obviously an all-pro punt returner, but I think they like using him in quick screen situations, try to get him the ball early in space and see if he can make somebody miss and use his speed. Theodore says, I'm learning that our pass rush is systematically a closing clamp more than individual sacks. It's different than other teams utilizing thrusting individuals. Yes, Theodore, that's a great point. And we should talk about that because we've played teams this year, Chicago, obviously the Ravens, Chiefs, Baker here with the Bucs, mobile quarterbacks. And I think the Lions' approach is bend, don't break. Don't let the quarterback hurt you. Get out of the pocket, extend plays. Try to limit that as much as possible. They did such an excellent job with Baker Mayfield. Probably better than any other mobile quarterback they've done this year. Ravens may be second to this with containing Lamar Jackson. But Baker couldn't escape at all. They held him in that pocket as close as they could. And when we talk about Ali McNeil affecting the middle of the defensive rush, that's where that kind of works so perfectly. When Ali McNeil's there, they get the mid-interior pressure, the edge pressure from Hutch. You hope to get a little bit of production from the other side, and they've been getting that from El-Kadim Muhammad. Bob Muhammad, if you listen to 97 won the ticket. But if they can get a little bit of production there, that all comes together. And I think you're right, Theo. That's a great point. It's a great point. That's how the Lions are able to contain and make this thing work. And that's why I think Hutchinson doesn't have double-digit sacks now. He doesn't care. I don't think he cares. He's a pressure maniac, and he's affecting the game on every single snap. And if he's not the guy affecting it, the double and triple team he's taking is allowing somebody else on the defensive line or on the defense to make the play. So he's affecting every single snap. It's really awesome to watch. Jill says, was surprised at DC's second challenge flag. Still not sure what that was all about. Jill, here's what I would say. I use the Pride of Detroit website a lot. It's a great resource, a great place for fans of the Detroit Lions to go and get true, credible information. Very sourceful. They did a great job sort of describing the two challenges that Dan Campbell had laid out. It's so technical that I'm not going to read through that to you guys here. That's boring. But Jill, maybe go there and check it out. Pride of Detroit. They do one of their most recent articles goes over that exact thing. And I have no association with them. I'm not pitching that to you guys at all. Matter of fact, Pride of Detroit, you can call me and put me on the payroll if you want. Millicent says the Goff fumble completely on him. Put a little bit of that on Decker. Yeah, I think Decker, let's give him some grace. Number one, because he is just the emotional leader. He's been in the Lions forever. He's a great player. I just think with him being someone injured up and down and out of the lineup, it's just not perfect all the time. He's getting a little bit older. So there's some things there. And again, that's some of the concerns. That's what went wrong, areas to improve. But I agree. The Goff fumble, it just seems like he's very fragile when it comes to taking hits. And defenses can affect the Lions offense by putting a hand on Jared Goff. And the Bucs were able to do that a few times. What's up, Yoda? She says it's a good win in a somewhat sloppy game. We had a bunch of mistakes. I agree. Offensively was a lot left to be desired. Decker's a warrior, but he's hurt. I agree, Sack. Ken says Baker Mayfield did not gain 1 yard against us, if I stand correct rushing. I think you are correct, my good man, and I will verify that for you right now. I don't think he did have a rush down. The point is you didn't see him scramble, break contain. That just didn't happen in that football game. And that's credit to the Lions' defensive line. You are exactly correct, Ken. Baker was not credited with 1 rush attempt or 1 rush yard on the day. Pretty incredible. Speaking of Baker, 28 of 50, 228, sacked 4 times, 1 TD, 1 interception. They forced Baker Mayfield and the Bucs to throw the football 50 times. That speaks on how great the defense was. Millicent says, Goff is human. Perhaps he had a rough night with baby Romy. That's fair. For those of us that have had kids, I have a son, a 9-year-old son myself. They can be challenging. If you're playing NFL football, NFL quarterback, and raising a child, doing those 2 things at once could be very, very difficult. So Millicent will give him a little grace with that. I love Jared Goff. We all love Jared Goff. He's the man. He'll work through even these minor things. Again, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers present a blitzing scheme that other teams in the NFL don't present. Very exotic. Show blitz, back off. Don't show blitz. Everybody's coming. A lot of weird things. And Jared Goff does a good job and did do a decent job at times working through it. Trim says Cam Robinson would be a good insurance policy for the O-line. Interesting. Jack Campbell's having some fun out there. I agree with you. Jack Campbell, tackling machine, just consistent. And man, when he puts his hands on a player, it's like they don't get free. He is a tackling maniac. Now, I think there's a little left to be desired with his athleticism. I think he's beat in coverage sometimes, and that's sort of the next progression for Jack Campbell. But man, as far as coming up, filling gaps, filling holes, and just ultimately leading this defense, I mean, he's the man. Millicent says, I appreciate Goff's poise. It was embarrassing to see Baker having a mini meltdown on the sideline. Something you'd never see from Goff. I think the Baker, you had to tell. I mean, he was frustrated. Lions were doing some things defensively I don't think he expected. But also, Baker's playing, I'm not excusing a meltdown on the sideline, but he's played such good football. He's carried that team. Offensively, he was without several weapons. And Bucky Irving not being there is so huge for them. You know, when Mike Evans went down, it sort of changed anything that they could do with their wide receiver crew. So that really hurt them as well. So he's playing from behind it. And I think he ultimately thought that the Lions missed that field goal. When he banked it or dunked it off the post, I think Baker thought it didn't go back through. So he was making a big fuss over the fact he thought they missed the field goal. I guess that's another thing we got to think about. Jake Bates hasn't been super on point so far this season. Hasn't made a field goal, I think, over 50 yards was the stat I've heard, or is 1 for whatever he is. But that's something to think about. But the truth is, even great teams win ugly. You got to find ways to win in any way, shape, or form. And the Lions not only found a way to win, but dominated defensively. Kelvin Sheppard in this defense held the Bucs to 9 points, 251 total yards, forced them to throw the ball 50 times. Generated multiple turnovers. The defensive line held Baker Mayfield in check. So you really have to feel good about where the Lions stand heading into this bye week at 5-2. But before we move past this win, I have one more question for you guys in chat. What is the one area that you think the Lions must clean up after the bye? What is the one thing coming off the bye week that they have to clean up, that has to be better coming off of the bye week? Offense, penalties, strictly health, finishing drives, limiting turnovers. What is that one thing the Lions must clean up after the bye week to head towards a Super Bowl? I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat. Let me know. In Goff, we trust. Mill says Goff's medical condition prevents him from adding any bulk to his body. I'm always impressed by his ability to absorb those hits to his very lean frame. Yeah, I don't, here's the thing. The offensive line needs to protect him. How about he doesn't take any hits? And that's fine. I've seen Goff play better within the pocket than he did against the Bucs. If you go back and watch, let's say, the Seattle game week 5 last year at home against, in the black uniforms, very similar situation. Lions needing a win. He was so efficient. That was the game where he was almost perfect, or was perfect, 18 of 18. I'm not saying we expect that every time or should get that every time, but watch him in the pocket in that game versus in the pocket in this game. You could argue there's no Frank Ragnow. There's some things. But my point is I feel like I've seen Jared Goff play better within the pocket, a little more efficient. Obviously, the turnovers, we need to limit those. But the question was, what's the one area you think the Lions must clean up heading out of the bye week? If it wasn't for the electromagnetic football that Upright Bates would have missed. That's right. They zoomed, they honed it back in. The NFL turned their beep, boop, beep, boop, and just kind of faded it right back in. I thought it was within the ball. I thought it was like a fan in the ball that starts to spin and pushes it. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. What's up, Will? Will Corley says pass rush. They got to clean up the pass rush. Do you mean like adding a pass rusher? Because I would say as we get towards the deadline, that's the one thing I'd like to see the Lions do. Most teams want to do this, but adding a pass rusher. That grab by Laporta looked like electromagnetic gloves. Yeah, Sam Laporta got hands, man. Jill says, got to stay healthy. Sex says, getting home on defense. Again, we're talking about the one area the Lions must clean up heading out of the bye week. Will says, Goff needs to look for J-Mo more. We talked about that a little bit, Will. I think there's times they've tried to force J-Mo. I thought he had a good game last week, and the potential's always there. But here's the bottom line, Will. J-Mo will pay off for this Lions team by just being in the lineup. His ability to separate the defense, to open up the middle of the field for Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta, Gibbs. His ability to just be that decoy truthfully helps this offense more than most people will see. And I know you know that, Will. But I think that's where he's really paying off. I want to see him get the ball more, and I think they'll try. Kent says third down conversions. Yeah. I've heard a stat that the Lions haven't converted a third and long, or we're like 1 for 21 on third and longs all season. Pretty incredible stat. But they don't get themselves into many third and longs. That's what is kind of even more incredible. Third down conversions, there's another one. So back-to-backers there. Goff, J-Mo chemistry needs improvement. Improve the interior offensive line play, says Yoda, which will come because the guards are young. Pressure from the middle will kill this team. I agree. Guards got to continue their ascension, and they've played very well. Add another end. We had somebody mention Max Crosby still wanting that deal out there. Offensive line consistency trim, that might be the biggest thing. And that was sort of what's mentioned with the guard play there. If they can remain consistent with their offensive line, I think a lot of good things happen. Will, you are exactly right. $83 million for a blocker, and I agree with you. Matter of fact, if you've been around the channel, if you watch some of my previous material on J-Mo, I am in your corner with that. I think that was a lot of money to play for a guy that's not getting enough touches right now. But I just feel like it will come. And that money they paid to him was sort of an investment in his confidence, his faith back at the Lions, so that we don't have an issue off the field anymore. And that he continues to at least show up, be involved, be that blocker, because that does help this offense. And again, stretching the defense. That's really the role that he's playing, and it's a big role. Is it worth $83 million? Probably not. Yes, sir, need a pass rusher, says Rob. Jameson is opening the coverage for under routes, says Sack. Cam Jordan is coming, guaranteed, says Trim. A Saints move for Cam Jordan. I like that. I like that because I don't think it would cost the Lions a whole bunch. Yeah, I'm with you, Will. But Lions fans love the big splash. They love when I sit here and say, Trey Hendrickson, Max Crosby, get an edge. You know how many views I get when I just say that? And I'm not that kind of guy, Will. I won't sell it to you like that, I promise. No, I don't. I agree with you. They are not going to get Max Crosby. They are not paying that kind of money, knowing they got to pay Hutch. They got to pay, well, we'll see about Brian Branch now, but, those are guys that they got to think about down the road. Jameer Gibbs is going to have a big contract to think about. Sam Laporta. We can keep going. Rob says we need Laporta to catch passes more. I think it was a little bit underutilized. Maybe just didn't work as far as their offensive scheme this week against the Bucs, but he's been the Lions' kind of security blanket. He's been Goff's security blanket, big third down conversions all season long. So I think Laporta will be heavily involved moving forward. He'll be a big piece to this. I got to keep him healthy. Thibodeau? Again, price. Will they take on a guy that's just a rental is first question. And if not, are they willing to even entertain paying someone, Kent says, get the flavors of the refs like the Kansas City Chiefs and Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, if you get favors like that, you're already in a leg up. But I think we know the Lions don't get those kind of favors. Although, could you argue that in the game against the Bucs, that whole after a second look, we're now going to give the Lions the football because it was short of the fourth down, which we love that because it's in our favor. It's in the Lions' favor. But it's another example of there being a fifth ref involved, right? The New York ref calling in and changing the play. It just supports the whole officiating issue that we're having. Again, when it goes in the Lions' favor, I don't think anybody's going to sit back and be upset at that, but it just happens. Yeah, Cam Jordan's a much more palatable addition, I think, because it won't come with a lot of strings attached. But how much production can you get? Now, hopefully with the other pieces on the defensive line for the Lions, a guy like Cam Jordan could come in and be productive. But remember, guys, and I know you hate when I say this. I know you hate when I use the word Marcus Davenport. Woo! Boy, he said it. I said it. He's coming back. Marcus Davenport's coming back. The Lions like Marcus Davenport, and he fits opposite Hutch almost perfectly, but he just can't stay healthy. But the Lions, again, they like him. He's coming back, and I know you don't want to hear that, but anybody else you bring up might be secondary to Marcus Davenport in this whole situation. I agree, Will. That's why it's not ideal. It'd be very short term, and you'd have to get a lot out of him to make that make sense. Stay in house more. I agree, Rob. And I think that's probably what they'll do. And that's been the Lions' MO. That's Brad Holmes' MO. They don't make big splash midseason moves. We'll see what happens over the next several weeks after the bye. They may adjust that, but we'll see. Love Marcus, but please stay healthy. Jill, that's it. That's it. The coaching in this game, again, and I don't mean to keep pounding the Kelvin Sheppard thing, but let's go with the bigger picture. Dan Campbell continuing to have this team mentally sharp, ready to play, getting his coaching staff on board, and then selling that to the players to the extent that they're able to play the way they did. Trim says the Egyptian magician's coming back soon. Let's not forget about that. It'd be interesting to see what kind of PT playing time he gets when he returns. Considering the other pieces they may have back healthy, he'll get a shot, but in a depth role. But Dan Campbell, keeping this team mentally sharp. They're so physical every week. It leans into injuries, but it's the fact that they're able to not lose back-to-back games. Over the last several years, they just don't do that, and it continued against the Bucs. Aleem McNeil in his return, giving the boost to the inside. The way the coaching staff utilized him in this game was perfect. The emotion that they play with, rallying around the Brian Branch situation, that's all coaching, organization, the Lions structure. Incredible. Ken says, what are these current bottom feeder teams? One of these current bottom feeder teams might be willing to part with a defensive back or an end. I agree. That's where they're going to kind of go fishing, in the Giants pool, the Saints pool. They're going to see what they can find. Yeah, Thibodeau might be expendable. The Giants are weird, Will. I can never tell what the Giants are going to do. If they want to make some weird deal, I'm into it. I like the player, and it would make a huge impact. That'd be a big splash. But I don't know, man. I just love how this staff gets their guys to buy in. You know, Campbell, Sheppard, Glenn, everyone's, when it was Glenn, when it was Ben Johnson, but now with Sheppard and Morton, everyone's pulling in the same direction. Always. That's how you build a contender. That's how you build a consistent winner and contender, and the Lions have done that. And I heard Mike Valeni at 97 on the ticket, and as much crap as I give him when he's negative, when he's positive, that show is really fantastic. And today it was nothing but flying colors for this Lions performance on Monday night. But he talked about the fact that the Lions have basically answered the bell for every concern in this offseason that they had. Could they recoup their coordinators? Could they pick up where they left off? Can this defense do enough to help this offense? Can the Dan Campbell system continue? Can this offensive line recover from the loss of Ragnow and 2 young guards coming into the mix? They've answered all of these questions now at the bye week. And the bye week couldn't have come at a better time. I agree with you, Rob. He says, I'm glad we have the bye. I'm sure the Lions are as well. Remember last year it was week 5 or after week 5? It was way too early in the season. It's still a little early, to be honest, but they'll take it, especially with where they're at with their current injuries. This bye week comes at the perfect time. And this kind of leads into the next segment. What does this mean for the Lions moving forward? Because we're at the bye at 5-2. I mean, we're feeling really good about ourselves, but what is ahead for this Lions team? They're coming off the bye, and they'll play against the Minnesota team that's been very up and down. Quarterback situation in flux. And I have to imagine Minnesota's going to be thinking, man, we don't want to get this Lions team after a bye. They're getting healthy. They're playing great football. Lions, to me, are the clear class of the NFC, and that's a very winnable game at home against Minnesota off a bye. We'll talk about that. I won't try to give any sort of prediction, but that one you got to feel good about. And then you have a couple tough matchups. You have the rematch at Washington against the Commanders team, which, again, we'll see where they're at that point. But the Lions to be able to go to Washington and kind of get back that divisional loss will certainly be keyed up for that game. So you're going to home for Minnesota, at Washington, and then the big one in the season at Philadelphia, November 16th. That's an 8:20. It's a primetime Sunday night game against the Eagles. I think that's the one we're all looking ahead to. The Lions won't look that far ahead. They will take care of business against Minnesota and then at Washington. But that is one of the premier matchups of this NFL season. Lions travel to Philadelphia. I think that's week 11. So we'll certainly get out ahead of that one. And that's what's ahead for the Lions. Then you have a reprieve with the Giants, Green Bay on Thanksgiving, then Dallas, at the Rams, home for Pittsburgh. And then you finish the season at Minnesota, at Chicago. 2 very winnable games now as you look ahead in the schedule. But the Lions have some tough matchups. Washington, Philadelphia, another one with Green Bay, who they've lost to already. The Rams, Matthew Stafford. They have to actually go to LA in that case. The Rams are playing good football, so that's also a premier matchup. The Lions sitting in a good spot, but what do you guys see looking ahead after the bye week? Lions own the North. What's up, Donkey Kong? I agree. And although the record still says the Packers technically ahead of the Lions based on win percentage, I think we know who the class of the NFC North is. And I would say the Lions are the class of the NFC right now, even over Philadelphia. Think of all the faces we get back in a couple weeks. I mean, that's it, Trim. That's really it. Whatever Brad does is the best decision ever at all times, Donkey Kong. I don't know if that's serious. I don't know if you're being serious or not. I tend to lean in Brad Holmes' camp. We really should trust Brad Holmes. He's really made this organization into what it is right now. And although not every single move has worked, and you might not agree with the fact that he didn't go get you an edge rusher, or he hasn't made a big splash midseason, or used third-round picks to draft a wide receiver. You might not love some of those things, but the truth is it's working. Will says, I know BB's coming back, but what's up with Kirby and Arnold? So I think Terry and Arnold he could have even played worst case scenario in the game against the Bucs, but I just think they felt it more necessary to give him an extra week. Plus they knew they had the bye. So I fully expect Terry and Arnold back against Minnesota. The Kirby one is the one where I can't really sit here and say the Lions haven't come out and said long-term, it's a knee injury. It's kind of lingering. And And so we'll see. I certainly needs to buy. I can give you a little bit more info, Will, probably over the next 5-7 days. Rodriguez, Kirby, Branch, Reed, the Egyptian magician. Again, all guys that should be returning to the lineup very soon after the bye. Rob says, we just have to watch out for turnovers. I agree. I mean, offensive line play, that consistency, not turning the ball over, that efficiency will win the day. 2 turnovers for Jared Goff, not typical. Trim says, I see a straight path to the Super Bowl. I got to be honest with you, man. I don't disagree. What's up, Lean? How you doing, brother? They need to feed Laporta, JMO, and Tesla. I like that plan. Tesla, an interesting case, right? Because I think preseason hype got us excited. He's seen the field a lot as a rookie wide receiver, especially in a deep wide receiver room like this. He's still getting plenty of opportunity, mostly being able to block downfield and special teams. They clearly have faith in Isaac Tesla. I mean, that 4th down play, they had all the faith to throw up a bomb to him in the end zone on a 4th and short. So to go to the rookie in that case tells you what the Lions think about the kid. I think he'll get more opportunities down the road. So I'm not worried about Isaac Tesla whatsoever. Millicent says every team that's been labeled a tough matchup for the Lions is a tough matchup for that team too. I mean, look, think of it from their perspective. Shoot, we got the Lions coming in this week. I mean, that basically kills you for 2 weeks. That's the Honolulu Blue flu. Lions beat you, and then they beat you the next week because they beat you up so bad. Lean says they need to score in the red zone, though, or kick a field goal. I mean, there's a lot to be said for that, Lean. I mean, we love the aggressiveness. I don't think Dan Campbell's ever going to change. He's affected the way a lot of other NFL teams look at 4th down and the analytics around going for it. And that's just what they're going to do. But I think there's going to come a point in time where they need to take points. And that might have been that one time. Go up 10, especially, again, divisional round, AFC championship game. Take the points sometimes. I think 3rd down efficiency. I mean, that's to me the thing that's got to change. It's got to get better. 3 of 13 on 3rd down, 32 of 85 at 37.6% on the season for the Lions. That's not good enough. And again, they don't get the 3rd downs often, so I think we're able to kind of look past that a lot. But really look back at these games. Lions on 3rd and 5, 6 or more are not successful. They haven't been. But in a game where they win 24-9 and the defense and Kelvin Sheppard and the effort that they put in was just miraculous. I mean, that's what carried the day. And that's what we're going to take out of this Monday Night Football game. The Lions winning 24-9. They improved to 5-2 as they headed into the bye week. They're right in the middle of the mix as far as playoff contention. I think they're at spot 5 right now. Believe it or not, even at 5-2 because of the other division leaders. And because Green Bay technically has the winning percentage lead right now, Lions would slot in at spot 5 right now. But I think they would be the most dangerous team entering the playoffs if they started this week. Obviously, we have many weeks down the road to go, and we're hoping the Lions team will be playing at maximum efficiency at week 17. Yeah, Jill, Honolulu Blue flu. I can't take credit for that. That's been out there. Also want to note Legion of Whom. Start using that out there. I want to hear that more. But how far can this team go? If this defense keeps playing at this level, if they get these guys back and healthy, I mean, what is the ceiling? Is it truly Super Bowl? Is it Super Bowl or bust now for you guys? Let me know in the chat. Is that where we're at? Well, let's open it up, guys. I want to hear from you. Give me your thoughts, questions, feelings. What do you see for this Lions team as we get past the bye week? Got a couple minutes left in this version of the live. Tuesday nights with Johnny Gaz, 9:30 p.m. Eastern every single Tuesday. We'll be back next week, even during the bye. We'll come back and see you, say hello. We may have a special guest next week. We'll be talking what's ahead for the Lions. What's up, Michelle? The only good thing that can come from multiple injuries is the exposure of guys like Whiteside, I believe, the next few weeks. Well, I think a lot of guys got an amazing opportunity, and they all stepped up to the plate. We talked about all those depth pieces, including Whiteside, who really inspired the rest of the team. And I think it's again a credit to Dan Campbell and the program that this organization has developed to where you can go next man up and get so much effort out of depth pieces like that to the point where there really wasn't a drop off. They played better football. Theo says, I have the vision that Tesla can thrive in downfield 50-50 ball challenges like Evans, Allen, and Metcalf. You know what's funny about that too, Theo, is I think Tesla's got more speed than those guys do. And I really believe at some point he is your future at wide receiver. So I just think time and more balls thrown his way. Milton says, as a lifelong Lions fan, I've never been able to have conversations like this. We have so much talent on both sides of the ball, and if that's not enough, an outstanding coaching staff. It is a great time to be a Lions fan, Millicent. I love talking it with you. I love that you're involved in the chat, and everybody that's been involved today. It is a great time to be a Lions fan, and we need to enjoy this. Cherish this. It is the best of times. Yes, we want a Super Bowl, but the path to get there is what is the best part of this. So let's enjoy it. Buddy says, how you doing, buddy? He says, hope none of these guys get poached off the practice squad. And look, that's kind of the danger you run here. All these guys get healthy. Not everybody can stay on the active roster, and then things can happen. But good for them. I mean, if they get poached and they're able to activate on other rosters to earn contracts, that's why this is so awesome. And you hope to keep some of these depth pieces and continue to build this mega roster. But that's how you're able to motivate guys. Give them opportunities. Trim says, Lions might lose one or two more, but that's it. And they're on their way to their first Super Bowl. Yeah, man, I had them at 12-5 when I initially looked at the schedule up front. I think right now they've increased that expectation, at least in my mind. I have them at 13 wins now, 13-4. If I'm predicting what's going to happen, I think there's still a couple more losses on the schedule just due to maybe health attrition and some other things. But the Lions are on a great path, and I think they're now where I would have said they wouldn't compete for a number one seed in the NFC. I think now they're certainly in that discussion. Staying healthy and then Super Bowl. So through 7 weeks, who is your midseason MVP? Who's been the most valuable player for this Lions team through 7 weeks? As we're now heading into the bye, let's kind of cut it right there. Who has been the Lions MVP of the season so far? That'll be the last question for today. Let me know in the chat. Who has been the Lions MVP so far this season? What up, Robert? Yo. Hey, no worries, man. Better late than never, and I'm glad to have you, my dude. And we'll be back next week live. I'll have a ton of content this week. We won't be prepping for a game because we're in the bye, but what a great place to be. 5-2. We'll have a lot of fun stuff coming up. We'll continue with our Why series. We got the 3-minute drills. I'm going to try and come out with a long-form video called The State of the Lions. At the bye week, we'll kind of do a review of what's happened, where we're heading, kind of an all-encompassing view of this Lions team and where they stand as of the bye week here in 2025. So be on the lookout for that over the course of the next week. But what we're asking here is, who is the Lions MVP so far? Through this first 7 weeks now into the bye, who is your Lions MVP? Buddy says, love the Whiteside. Whiteside's getting a lot of love, man. What a great game for him and everybody in that secondary. Hutch or Goff, according to Trim. Buddy says, Amon-Ra or Gibbs. Robert says, probably Sewell. Look, that's always a good vote. I mean, he's the basis for everything. If the offensive line's playing well, it's because Penny Sewell's leading the charge. Running game, play action, it all stems from what happens in the offensive line, and he's the heart of it. So you can never go wrong with that vote. Theo says St. Brown MVP. Millicent says Goff is my MVP. He's doing an amazing job of pulling double duty. QB on and off the field. Basically, their secondary offensive coordinator. I agree with that. Rob says Hutch is. Jill says Gibbs and Hutch. I like that, giving me both sides, offense and defense. Trim says Captain Jack. That's a good vote. Underrated vote there for MVP. I like that. I think for me, and I'll give two. I'll give an offensive and defenses just so we can kind of talk both. I think the offensive MVP is Jahmyr Gibbs. Just for me right now, I think he is playing next level football. It's kind of what we expected out of Jahmyr Gibbs for 2025. It's not unexpected from my point of view that he supersedes David Montgomery's carries, touches, and that will just continue as he can, strives to be the premier back, not only for the Lions, but maybe in the NFL. That speed, his ability to break tackles, his toughness, it's all there. So Jahmyr Gibbs is my offensive MVP for the Lions so far this season. Defensively, it's got to be Hutch. It has to be Aiden Hutchinson. No, he's not producing the number of sacks I think a lot of people expected, especially coming off of what he did in the 4 games he played in 2024. But that's not how he's affecting games. It's through pressure rate. And I think he had another 11 pressures on Baker Mayfield. And that's on top of the fact that he's being doubled and triple teamed on almost every play. So he's dominating his matchups. He's allowing his other teammates to thrive because he's taking away blockers, and he's affecting each and every snap. So Jahmyr Gibbs offensively, defensively, it has to be Aiden Hutchinson. Michelle says Jack Campbell, another vote for JC. I like that. It is awesome when there's so many choices, Trim. That's why I love having this discussion. But Hutch just wants to make plays. I mean, he does. He's a motoring maniac. He's the engine. He really is. I've described him that he is the engine that makes this motor run. Wait, that doesn't make sense. He's the engine that makes the Detroit Lions car run. So many candidates. Again, it says a lot about just how special this era of Lions really is. That's right, Millicent. Yoda says, not MVP, but I love Amir. He's a vet, and I believe he helps a lot behind the scenes. I think you're right. I think his motivation, his leadership with, I'm sure, all of the depth pieces that we talked about today was a big part of this. A guy like Amik Robertson, Rock Ya-Sin, that veteran presence, the emotional lead that they can provide had to have been the thing that led the day. So this was a huge win, guys. Monday night was a huge win for the Lions. A statement, not perfect, wasn't pretty. It was complete, balanced. Defense picking up offense. Offense making plays when it had to. You saw the depth, you saw discipline, and you saw domination in certain cases. It was a great performance. It's the kind of game that championship caliber teams build off of. They're built for. Really inspiring. Big props to Jahmyr Gibbs, Kelvin Sheppard, the defensive coordinator. Those are my highlights from that game. The whole defensive unit, just really fantastic. Cannot say enough. A win is a win, ugly or not. In the NFL, it's about winning and moving on. But the Lions, I think, did even more than that this week with their defensive performance. What's up, buddy? Says the Lions, with the hits they put on the other team, great to see. Defense was flying all over the field. I agree, man. But I appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much for getting involved today in the chat. I love it so much. Thank you for being Lions fans. Again, we'll be back next week at 9:30. Come back and see me. Make sure to hit the like button on this live if you haven't already. It's really the best way to help out the channel. Sharing it, commenting like you did. Again, I appreciate it so much. We're starting to grow this channel, and it's because of you guys. It's because of the love and passion of Lions fans, and I just love sharing that with you. So please come back and see me. Continue to comment. I appreciate all the help you've been able to provide at this point. That's going to be the stream, the live for today. We're going to cut it off. I appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of your week. More than anything else, and I say this all the time, and I truly mean this, you take care of yourself first, your mental health. Everything else comes after that. And I want to make sure you come and see me on future videos. That's more important than anything else. I love you. I appreciate you.